Welcome to Peak, Train Like a Girl, a podcast by girls in sport, for girls and coaches in sport. We're here to amplify your voice. We think it deserves to be heard. At Peak, we're a safe place for girls to hang out, learn, grow, and build community. I am so excited to bring in another new host who also works for the Center of Creative Growth. Carson, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here.
I am so glad that you are here. Before we get started with our incredible guests, why don't you fill us in a little? Like, first of all, where are you right now? Are you in Indy? Are you in Chicago? Let us know.
I am actually home in Cincinnati. I am visiting family.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Nice. So that's what that little was of that picture you sent me.
Yes. I have 6 nieces here, so hard to stay away.
That is so fun. I love that. So Cincinnati, which is where you grew up?
Yes.
I'm so glad that you're here. So Carson works remotely for the Center of Creative Growth. Why don't you fill us in a little there about some of the good work you are all doing there?
Yeah, so that is one of the perks of my job as a mental performance coach. I see all of my individuals virtually. So like you mentioned, I have some of my Illinois athletes. I have athletes in Indianapolis, which is where I ran track. I ran track at Butler University. So I've got some people there, and then I've got some Cincinnati athletes as well. And yeah, I get to work virtually with individuals, and then I can go in person and work with teams kind of wherever I am. So it's really unique and special in that way.
That is so awesome. Well, we are so glad you are here. And Carson, you are absolutely going to love our guests, Shania and Rianna Tandon, who also run both cross country and track at a high school in Illinois, Naperville North. And I'm so excited for you to get to hear a little bit about their story. They're actually second-time guests on the podcast. Girls, welcome back to the pod.
Hi, thank you so much. We're so excited to be back. We're so excited to be here and talk to you today.
I'm so glad you are here too. So I did not realize that I am cutting out on my end. So you know what I'm going to try to do? I'm going to try to take my ear pods out and see if that helps. But in the meantime, Shania, why don't you fill us in? Last time you were here, you were just coming back from an injury, and tell us a little bit about what the recovery process was for that and how you came back to finish. I'm not even sure if you came back for cross country, but trained your way back into the track season.
Yeah, hi. It's so good to be back. Thanks again for having us. So I had a pretty bad accident in July of 2024. So that was almost 2 years ago now. But yeah, getting back from that, I was able to, it was a pretty quick recovery process, physically, but then all mentally, just learning how to train again, learning to be comfortable with the results I was getting, and then also just really prioritizing progress over perfection was a big, big thing for me. And I think that it taught me so much just as an athlete, but also within my life as a person. So I was able to come back from that. I placed all state that year in cross country, which was phenomenal. I felt so blessed to have been able to do that alongside my teammates. And then going into that track season, that was my junior year. Yeah, we came back from that, continued moving forward and moving along. And then, yeah, this year, senior year, I was able to compete in both cross country and track. So both of those, I mean, it was wonderful just getting to finish up the year with my whole high school career, with this year, and just being my senior year with my teammates and my coaches. It was very, very nice to wrap up the year.
Idea of you talking about progress over perfection, and I think that was so beautifully said. Can you talk to us a little more in detail about how it was that you were able to stay committed to the plan and to trust your coaching staff through that process? I sometimes think that that's where athletes can get into a little trouble, is that there's too many voices almost in their head and they don't know who to listen to. So how did that work for you, committing to the plan and trusting your coaching staff?
Sure, yeah, I like to say a lot, especially coming to my coaches and my teammates, is really just take it day by day and step by step, literally and also figuratively. I know at first I was unconscious, I was in a boot, and every single day I would write in my journal my wins for the day. So I have all these journal entries now that I'll glance at sometimes, but in the moment they helped me so much because there'd be things like, I weight bared today, or I called with my plastic surgeon, or I did these little different things that in the moment, just keeping a list of the little things that I did throughout the day, or even just like reading a book outside in the sun, or talking to my grandmother, like just little things like that. It helps me remember who I was as, again, like an athlete, but then also just relax a little bit and take that pressure off and say, like, hey, you won a little bit today, and maybe you didn't ever picture yourself in this spot, or these weren't what your expectations were for this time, but you're here now, so just stay present and stay in the moment, and then as those days stack on top of each other and those wins continue, you realize how much you've grown and the progress that you made rather than what your expectations of perfect or being perfect were. And yeah, that helps me so much. And even to this day in my head, when I go to bed or right before I go to bed, I'll just think about the wins that I've had, and it really helps me throughout life, but then also as an athlete so much. And it really did. It kind of structured my brain differently when I was injured, and now I keep it with me, and it still holds true. And I think there's a lot to be appreciative of from what that came from and how it came to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't think that everybody has to suffer a traumatic injury like you did to connect to who they are outside of sport. I think that's something that we should all be doing every single day, because once sport goes away, or once that perfection, like once you've reached something, like then what's the next thing? If you're always looking for the next thing, I think it's hard to feel satisfied. So one of the things I feel like you're saying is that you have a set of values that you connect to, and you do have goals, but what you're really focusing on are the habits that you can do to keep your values in check and get you to your goals. So weight bearing may not have been a habit that you had trying to get to your goal of winning all state in cross country the year before, but weight bearing was the new habit that you had to gain in order to get to your goal. So just reestablishing your habits doesn't mean that you have to change your values or your goals. Does that make sense, or is that kind of the process that you were thinking?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's so important. And what I learned throughout that whole process was being a young adult and being a person for everyone of any age is to find balance within yourself, but then also find the ability to be adaptable, because a lot of times, one of my teachers, he said champions adapt, and that's just stuck with me so much, because everyone can adapt, and we're such, as humans, so many things, we can plan, but everything won't always go the way that we seem, but that's what makes life beautiful, and I think that it helps me a lot to remember that you can adapt, and you can be flexible, and you can continue to learn and grow, even if things aren't going exactly as you planned or exactly the way that you saw them.
So, Carson, I would hear, I'm sure this has a lot to do with athletes and clients that you see talking about mental performance. And I love that Shania said to be adaptable and progress over perfection. I think those were two like huge takeaways for me. But what are some of your thoughts, not only being a former track athlete, but working with high performance athlete? Do you think that those things are necessary in order for athletes to compete, or at least stay sane in this competitive world that we live in?
Absolutely. I think those were such beautiful nuggets of wisdom, Shania. Yeah, I think being able to be flexible is so important. I find that when I work with athletes and we develop different mental skills, like having a plan and having your kind of toolkit is really important, and makes you feel confident. But when it comes to getting on the line or the court or the field or whatever it may be, like, there are no guarantees. So being able to have the things that make you feel confident, but then letting go of this idea that it's always going to go the way that you planned it or want, that is really the key. The best athletes are not perfect, and they're not the ones that never make mistakes. They're the ones that can respond and adapt, exactly like Shania was saying. So I think that's absolutely something that I teach and think is really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. Rianna, I'd love for you to kind of get in here and maybe just fill us in. What was senior year like? I know you had cross country and you had track, but also you had graduation and prom and so many other celebratory moments. So how did you make that all work in your full schedule?
So definitely when track season started, me and Mr. Iverson, my coach, had a pretty long conversation about how much there was going to be going on, like more than I would imagine, especially once championship season started. It was crazy because we had so many senior events happening, but then also right in the midst of our championship season. So we really talked about this after conferences and how I was going to have to restructure my thinking and my focus and really set my priorities in a way that was a balance between having fun and celebrating and really being appreciative of how far I've come, but then also remembering there was sectionals on the line, state on the line, and that, yeah, I've been training all season for my races, and to just be as mentally prepared in every second, every moment that you are. So I feel like what we really spoke about was taking every day as it is and every moment, every second in it when I was in every event I was in, and then the next day or the next moment or the next event focusing on what I had. So if I had a race coming up in a few days, keep it in the back of my mind and keep thinking about it, visualize about it, but then take moments to have fun, to spend time with my friends, go to prom, go to events, go to senior celebration, all of that, and then come back the next day stronger and ready to race and have those fun moments, I guess, as a tribute to the last 4 years, but then knowing right when to refocus. And I feel like really perfecting this during the winter and training then helped me now because I was ready and I knew there might have been some days I had to miss or events I had to miss to perform better at track. But then at the end of the day, that's what we chose my balance to be.
Yeah, I love that you were able to have a transparent conversation with your coach, and that's something that developed over 4 years. That's probably not a conversation he could have had with you your freshman year. Mm-hmm. The question I have, though, is how did you have enough faith and trust in him that he was going to push you enough to succeed, but also give you the space you needed to do other things?
I feel like the main trust aspect with Mr. Iverson really started my junior year. So cross country my junior year was super successful on many ends, but also, like at the early season, I was at a pretty low and on a mental perspective, because I guess I've had physical injuries a lot, but mentality was never really a big issue until last year, junior cross country. And I feel like I don't know, it was sort of a low for sure. We talked a bit about it in the last podcast, but in the middle of my season after, I believe our Minnesota meet, we had like a 2-hour conversation and I just like cried to him, and I was like, I have so many expectations on myself. Like, it's my junior year, I'm getting recruited and I'm just performing so terribly. Like, what should I do? And it was right before a Twilight meet, and I was like, well, he's like spoke to me for a while, and that's kind of, I feel like, when the trust was built, because he was like, I've seen your workouts, I watch you every day during your workouts, and you've been performing so well and running as fast as you have been ever. And he was like, now we just have to translate it to racing. And I feel like once I took the pressure off and he taught me, he was like, you do not need to be perfect. And if you don't race to your potential, or as long as you just race as your best, you will reach your potential for the given day. And that changed my perspective immediately, because I was like, I may not race to what my expectation is, but if I race my best on the day, on the given circumstances that are there, I'm going to perform like better than I imagined. And then Twilight came, and I've taken all the pressure off. I was like, I'm just going to race the people around me. I'm not going to look at the times or anything. And that's when I performed the best. I think I PR'd by like 15 or 16 seconds, maybe more. And that's when I felt like I was in the right place where I had to be. And Mr. Iverson was pretty much the anchor for that, along with my parents. And so since then, I feel like everything he says, like we have meetings all the time and conversations, and that's kind of my foundation now, to really just trust the process in every moment in every race.
Yeah, I agree. And I like that you talk about the cost of perfectionism, right? Like the cost of perfectionism is that anxiety and self-criticism and the burnout, like always needing to show up perfect. And I love that Mr. Iverson gave you permission to show up as yourself. And by the way, yourself was enough, right? You had done enough of the work, enough of the training. But he gave you permission to almost fail, which I loved. I mean, I think that takes a seasoned coach, right? To be able to say to someone, you've done enough, show up as you. Did that also give you the mental headspace to enjoy the rest of your senior year?
Yes, for sure. Earlier in cross country of senior year, we were talking a bit more about expectations, and he was like, wait, hold on, think about the last 3 years. And he's like, and also after this race, just go out there, have fun. It's your last time. But remember, after the race, everyone who loves you now will still love you then, and everyone will still be proud of you. And that's when the perspective of senior year kind of switched from having perfect good races and PRs and placing well, turned into just having a really seriously good time racing. And during my races in track especially, I would have like fractions of thoughts of me being like, this is me, this is what I do, and this is so much fun, and this is just really what I love. And yeah, it just made this whole season be like, I'm so grateful for it. And I appreciated it more during it, and knowing it was my last race or my last time was just so much more exciting.
I love that. Carson, what do you have to say about that? The idea of perfectionism and maybe even the cost of perfectionism.
Yeah, I love what you said, Rianna, and I'm so glad that you were able to figure that out before you go off to college and compete at the next level. I think that's something that I notice a lot, especially in my runners that I work with, this idea of just wanting so badly to do well, but then that desire basically getting in the way. And it kind of feels confusing to the athletes, because if, they're putting their head down, they're grinding, they're doing all the right things, and they want so badly to be great. And then that anxiety around being perfect is what then is holding them back. And so if you can, Rianna, just kind of expanding on that for the athletes that are maybe listening and thinking that, if I want to compete at the next level, or I want to go on to these bigger and better meets and place higher, I need to be super serious. I need to be super locked in. I need to have this grind mentality. And that can kind of turn into a slippery slope of wanting to be perfect. You seem to have mastered this balance of having fun, enjoying the sport, staying true to yourself, while also being a very impressive, committed athlete. And so I kind of want to spin it back to you, Rianna. Like, how did you find that balance beyond, you mentioned your coach is your anchor, your parents are your anchor. Like, how did you flip that switch within yourself to kind of allow maybe a more free mentality when you do have such high goals and you want to be such an elite athlete?
Yeah, so I believe this was a conversation my sophomore year, maybe my junior. I believe it was before my junior year, the summer. But I talked to my dad about this a lot, and he was like, your mentality needs to be that very disciplined athlete. Like, I'm an athlete, I'm disciplined, like I have my schedule down, I have my workouts down during practice. This was the balance that I had, which was if practice, like my dad says it all the time, and he's like, if practices are hard, races will be easy. And so throughout my workouts and through like every time, like every practice that we have, especially being back with Shania this year as she was back from her recovery, was good because being able to push each other and really work together, but also having that very, very disciplined mentality that I will hit my paces, I will be faster than my paces, I will stretch well, I will sleep well, I will eat well, leading up to race day so that I can be at my best and very comfortable on race day beforehand, and then get onto the line and know all of the work was taken care of, all of the work was put in prior to racing, and that's how I feel like my races were so fun. That I wasn't putting pressure on myself during my races, but during workouts. And some days before my workouts, I'd be like terrified. I'd be like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm going to hit my pace today. Like, I might throw up, I might get hurt, I might die. But that is what helps me because I was running paces that were like faster than imaginable. We had a workout before sectionals. I believe it was 600s, and Mr. Iverson was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Like he was like speechless to so many of our teammates too, because we raced the workout, and then he was like, I would have no problem putting all 7 of you who was doing the workouts together in the 4x8 this weekend, no matter who it was. I know you guys are like at your peak right now in PR efforts, and that put so much confidence in us going into sectionals and then into state, because we were ready, and we were like, practice was so difficult that day, and it was basically a race, but then our races were easier than that and so much more fun too.
That's a really, really good point. And I wonder if part of what your dad was saying and that you realized is that so mentally disciplined during practice, but it almost sounded he was also saying when you're at practice, be at practice, and when you're in math class, be in math class, and when you're home playing board games with your family, be at home playing board games with your family. So it feels like that also helps mental capacity, where you're actually where your feet are at. Rianna, do you think that also played a role?
Yes, for sure. I feel like with Mr. Iverson and with my parents, with my mom as well, we talked a lot about this year, taking every moment by moment. I spoke about it before as well, and just cherishing every moment and staying present in the moment while you're in it, and then focusing on what you have to do the next day when it's the next day, or not thinking too far in advance that, ooh, we're graduating soon and state soon, and I'm going to New York soon, and all of this stuff, and just kind of staying in the present moment. When I was in high school, I was like, I have my next day of school, and then the next day of school, and it's going to be the last day of school soon. So just taking every day as it was and being so grateful and appreciative every single day of what was coming, but also where I was at the present moment.
Yeah, I think that's right. Shania, fill us in. What's going on this summer? I know you guys are probably on a break after the state track meet, but at some point you've got to start training again for cross country for college. So fill us in on what's going on there.
Yeah, sure. So big thing that just happened was that we had our 2 week break, and I just finished yesterday on Monday. So I ran yesterday, ran today, and then I'm lifting later today. So I already started with our new training and our new workouts NYU. I think that Rihanna still has a week left just because we're on a bit different schedules. But yeah, we're super excited. I know that you asked to begin this conversation if it felt like summer, and such a big thing that I prioritize in the summer is really that training aspect, because I have so much free time. So getting to do my workouts every morning and then lifting in the afternoon, it adds so much of a routine, but I I adore this routine, and even in the winter time too, when it becomes the same a little bit, when we don't have school, but we're only running, I'll tell my teammates and I'll joke with my coaches sometimes like, hey, I feel like an Olympic athlete because it kind of seems like this is what they do because like I'll just stretch for like an hour or two a day because like I don't have anything else to do, but it makes running fun again, and I think that even throughout my senior year of track, I can talk to you about this so much more too. But I don't know if you've ever heard the term, but all my coaches said, and my parents said I had senioritis, but in running. And oh my gosh, it was a lot in my head, but and like I'm still figuring it out mentally, but I think that being able to take some time off, but then get right back after it now, it's been so fun. And I woke up this morning and I was like, hey, I get to run today. Cause yeah, I've only been back for a day or two now, but I'm excited and I'm ready. And I think that a big thing that I love about the summer too and having some break time is that, yeah, just time to relax a little bit, take your mind off things, and then, yeah, we're refocusing for New York now.
Yeah, and I think that rest or a change of pace is super important. Carson, I'm curious, is there like any like science or data from a mental performance perspective that supports that a change of pace or a break is good for both the mind and the body?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not only thinking about the physical benefits, you know, preventing injury and recuperating, but like mentally just avoiding that burnout feeling. I love how Shania, you said that when you're first getting back into it, you have kind of that feeling of, oh, I get to run today. I think very quickly, you know, in a few months that can turn into like, oh man, I have to run today. And so having those resets of time where you don't have to train and you kind of get to channel back into the things you like to do for fun or be with the people that you want to be with that are outside of running, that really allows you to reset and refocus and avoid that burnout.
Rianna, talk to us a little bit about we're talking about going to New York, but what was the process like getting there? What was the recruiting process like? Are there any tips that you can give to the athletes that are listening, things that can make maybe their recruiting process simpler? Or maybe it's an athlete who doesn't think they're going to get recruited, but they'd love to perform at the next level. Do you have any tips there that can help people kind of sift through or navigate their way through that?
Yeah, for sure. The recruiting process was crazy to start off with. Like so much. I think about it all the time because a bunch of people have actually asked me this question the past few weeks, but yeah, no, the number one piece of advice I'd give anyone is to just send the text, send the email, get on the call, and like everything will work out just as it needs to. And I feel like the entire recruiting process taught me or further proved one of our huge values in our home, which is everything happens for a reason. And yeah, I feel like it was pretty funny actually, but for Shania and I specifically, we were actually visiting New York and the East Coast last summer just as for vacation. And my dad was like, hey, just text Coach Tyler, who's our head coach at New York University, and see if maybe he wants to meet because we were right in New York City. And we did, and we were like, okay, it's a long shot. Maybe he's like not here. Maybe this might not work. But then we met with him and it was just amazing. And that's when we were kind of like, hey, this might be our new home. And it was just crazy how that works because we were just visiting by chance. And then, yeah, if it wasn't for that text, who knows what would have happened. But we texted him, we got to meet him, and it just ended up so perfectly. But yeah, so Shania and I, we have the Tandon twins, our like Instagram platform page, but we really wanted to start doing more on recruiting on there as well, and really helping with the advice piece and for people who want to get into recruiting or don't really know where to start. But yeah, I feel like making that original email that is just my times, where I'm from, what grade I am, what my school is, and kind of what I'd like to see out of the university and from the program that you want to go to, and just sending like as many as you can, maybe 20, maybe 30 emails to all the different prospective schools, and keeping a list of interested schools, maybe not so much, maybe schools you need to run a bit faster for. That's what we did. And then, yeah, see where it goes from there. Every conversation is different. Every coach, every program is different. But kind of, it's a very exciting process too, because it's kind of finding yourself and finding where you might see yourself and where you want to be for the next 4 years. But yeah, if anyone at all even thinks about it, or if you even have a fraction of a thought that you might want to compete in college, I feel like it's definitely worth a shot and definitely worth talking to people about, definitely talking to coaches, parents, and support systems around you.
And it sounds to me like the way you approach everything is you're not afraid to fail. Like you'll show up and you're prepared, right? You're not showing up with some poorly written email. You're not showing up on the line not have done the workouts or not prepared for math class, but you're not afraid once you show up, you're not afraid to put yourself out there. And if it doesn't go your way, it's almost like oh, well, I tried, now on to the next. Like every learning experience doesn't come from just the wins. It also comes from the things that don't go well. How do you think how did that happen? Because that doesn't happen to everybody and it doesn't happen on purpose. How do you think you're able to take the losses and the wins and kind of gain experience from both?
Yeah, so definitely learning how to be rejected. I feel like that whole process also taught Shania and I that it's okay to fail, and maybe failing will open a different door, or maybe closing a door might lead us somewhere else where we have to be. And that goes back to everything happens for a reason. I mean, there are so many schools we could have chosen, so many different decisions we could have made, but at the end of the day, what happened was, I think, the best decision I've ever made in my life. It was one of the best choices, and I feel like whatever happened, and maybe like finding, I guess, really in the early stages, there was a lot of no's. There was a lot of no responses for sure. And it was a little bit of a punch in the stomach, punch in the face sometimes. And it was difficult, but I feel like almost every time we got a no or we didn't get a response, the next day we'd get a response. And that was kind of how we built the momentum. And then we started kind of structuring our plan, sort of, but also just keeping an open mind throughout and not closing doors. NYU is a D3 program, and at first we were never super set on going D1, but it was sort of definitely in the books. It was definitely in the thoughts and discussions, but then we decided NYU being a D3 program was going to be more competitive for us and better for us. And so, like, so many people that we talked to were like, are you going to go D1? And we were like, no, we decided not to, and that is why. And then we'd explain. But that kind of goes to show how it's okay to not be where you thought you'd be 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think part of it for me is that you both gain your identity outside of sport. It's not that sport isn't part of an identity for you, but you gain identity from your values. And you can hear that kind of through everything you say. It's not in a performance or a grade or how fast you ran or what you got into. I think that that's super important. Shania, what about you? Did you feel like the recruiting process went the way you thought it would? And then at the end of the day, I'm curious, did you end up in a place that was going to serve you both academically and athletically? And was that part of the conversation?
Yeah, for sure. So the whole likewise with everything that Rihanna said, but I think that not being afraid of failure is something that I learned throughout the process. And also, it served me so well, especially this year, in track and field, because I don't know if you've seen on like the results or anything, but I dropped out of our indoor conference meet, during indoor track and field, And a lot of people are like, oh, did you get hurt? What happened? But the truth is, I looked at the times, I looked at my place, looked at where I was supposed to be, and then saw that I wasn't doing as good as I wanted to. So I was like, you know what? This isn't worth it. And I can say that was the worst decision of my life. Not only because I got yelled at for it and because everyone was like, what do you think you're doing? Because I think I was in like fourth place. So it wasn't even bad looking back. But in the moment, I was so afraid to fail and not meet the expectations of the people around me. But what I learned through there, and then I can now connect back to, hey, I saw this throughout the recruiting process, and I saw this in other moments of my life, was every single no can lead to a yes. And every single time that you think it's time to panic, or you're panicking because you're going to fail or you're going to do bad, it's okay to feel like that, but it's even better to understand your reaction and then reflect on that. And I think that it's so important for me to look back and say, hey, there's schools that I wanted to go to that weren't interested or I didn't end up liking. And I think it's very important to understand that in your mind, but then also throughout your life too, where there's going to be times where you think something's going to happen, but it doesn't end up happening. But it's really how you can come back from that and see the good in the other things that might come back to, or the other schools that might want you, that you can always translate to. And I think that also, going off of what you said, I think that I'm now in a place where, yeah, athletically it's so exciting and all my teammates are great. Our coaching staff, I can already tell they care so much and it's awesome. And I think that it's a great transition from being at such a good school like Naperville North High School to now an academically very, very good school too. And then also athletically where the coaches care, just like Mr. Iverson and the rest of our staff. He was super excited too because he ran at a Division III school, and he thought that the care and the amount of love that we were going to get was going to translate very, very well. So yeah, I think that going into it, I'm super excited. I'm excited to see what's in store, and it's going to be a switch up, but I think that we're ready, and I think that any person wanting to get recruited or go off, there's going to be unknown, but I think that, again, that's what makes life exciting and cool and fun.
Carson, I'm going to let you jump in here a little as we start to get cooled down, but I do want to reflect. I did not know that story about your indoor conference, and a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you for being brave enough to share that story, because I'm sure it has to be hard to talk about for two reasons. I mean, first of all, you dropped out of a race because you weren't performing the way you knew you could. But to me, the more telling piece of that is you had developed enough strong relationships with your coaching staff that they were able to call you out on a behavior that is not respected on your team. Like, you don't drop out of something, because you weren't hurt. Like, you just were like, oh, this isn't working for me, so I'm going to drop out. And it goes back to that whole conversation of trust. And I know something I'm really trying to work on as a coach is being able to have those hard conversations. Like, I can love on people super easy, but sometimes I struggle just a little bit having those hard conversations, like, hey, that wasn't your decision to, drop out, and that wasn't good for you, and it wasn't good for the team. And I want to work more on that. So for me, that was such a valuable nugget, because I know that is something I am personally trying to work on as a coach. I know that if I love my athletes enough, I'm willing to have the hard conversations, not just the easy conversations. So I can't thank you enough for sharing that story. And when I see Mr. Iverson, which I know I'm going to see him in, I think in July, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to tell him that one of my nuggets that I'm working on for my upcoming coaching season is coming from that philosophy, to hold your athletes accountable. Carson, what do you have to say before we kind of close things down?
Well, okay, hopefully you can do this in a concise way. I just have a burning question for both of you. As soon as I saw that you were going to be the guest that I got to be on with, I'm a twin myself, and my twin is a boy, so it's a very different experience. But I still found we both ran track, that the comparison trap is just really elevated when you have a sibling, or even, a close friend. I find a lot of my athletes are obviously comparing themselves to other runners, but the two of you are in such a unique boat. And maybe just in our last few minutes, like if each of you could just give your biggest piece of advice for navigating comparison, especially within like the running sphere. I can't imagine how cool it is to be twins and committed to the same school and doing the same sport, but I also can imagine how difficult it is. So maybe Rianna, if you want to start, and then Shania, give us your piece, just a little blurb of how do you navigate, because the comparison's inevitable.
Yeah, immediately when you asked that question, I thought of something we talked about a lot going through Shania's injury, which Shania, you can talk more about that as well, with the comparison of everyone's going to face adversity in their life and everyone's going to have bad days. It just depends on if you have a bad day on the same day as them or if today is just not your day. And I feel like we all have different paths and journeys in life, and really, really, really understanding that is what changed my mentality, because I dealt with a little bit of the comparison trap a couple years ago, because a lot of my competitors and like opponents from schools that I would race against were committing to college or looking at the recruiting process and really upping their performances, especially throughout junior year. But really remembering that we all have different paths and journeys in life has helped with that. But then also having a twin is like I'd say it's the like most like moment, or like the biggest blessing I could have. Sorry, I could not find my words. But yeah, no, I like couldn't be more thankful. I literally thank my parents every day, and I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm just so grateful I have a twin. Like, this is the most amazing thing ever, because I just always have a best friend. Like, I can talk to her whenever I want. I can annoy her whenever I want. And yeah, it's just amazing. I love it so much. And built-in training partner for life. We knew right when we started recruiting that we wanted to go to the same school and end up at the same place. And so I'm so grateful that we are now as well. And Shania, you can talk a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Rihanna. I think that everything that she said was perfect and on all aligned. But what I did realize, especially after my accident, especially as I would sit there and I would think, because I wasn't allowed to run, or when I was on the bike or not actually running and physically there with her, and the rest of my teammates, I think that having a twin and being compared to her. Obviously, like every time that somebody would hear that we both ran track, they'd be like, "Oh, who's faster?" And that's like a funny conversation to have, because we're like, "All right, this is a long story, but there's a lot of events in track," and we'd explain all of it. But like there was never an ounce of envy or jealousy, and I think that a lot of people ask me, "Okay, are you jealous that she might be faster than you now, or after your accident, like what happens?" But I think that having a twin and always being like, no, never. I'm like, if she wins, I win, and if I win, she wins, and having that actually helped me stop comparing myself to other young ladies and young athletes out there that I was racing, because at the end of the day, and what I always say is that somehow, somewhere, we were all placed at this time and at this place at the exact day, and we get to race each other today, and we get to toe the line together. And even before my races, like I'm friends with a lot of the girls that I race, and they push me to do better, and I can push them to do better. So really putting that into perspective and having that feeling of gratitude for those around you, and saying, hey, like I'm so glad that I get to have people to race against, and I'm so glad that I'm in a position where I can enter big, great competitions and really see what I can do as a person, but then help the people around me get better too. And I think that having a twin, it just like Rihanna said, it's a blessing, and it's really, I thank God too every single day that I get a twin, and I thank my parents, of course, but having a twin sister, and I'm sure having a twin brother too for you, Carson, it's probably amazing. And yeah, I'm so grateful that I get to run and also do life with my twin.
Oh my gosh, that was absolute. Carson, first of all, thank you for asking that question. I think it was a absolutely perfect way to close the podcast. And I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, but I'm the mom of twin girls. So we're like the twinning podcast here. Maybe, yeah.
Good. I love that.
So maybe we have to start like a twin podcast or something like that. But the thing that was, it was so beautiful on so many levels, because I think what the two of you learned early, and I would love to actually meet your parents one day because they sound like amazing humans. Yeah, I mean, you can feel that, and I can sense it in you, but I think what you were modeled certainly very early in your life is that there's enough room up top for all of us, that when one wins, we all win. And that is why we are here at Peak. We are here to let girls know that we are not in competition with each other. We are, we can do our best, and we can fight to win, and we can want what's best for us, but never at the expense of somebody else. When one wins, we all win. And you have modeled that so absolutely beautifully. And I am like over the moon, thrilled that you were able to close out your senior year in such a manner that felt authentic and good for both of you, and celebrating all of those wins through graduation and your academics and your entrance into the next 4 years of college and your next 4 years in your athletic career. So thank you for letting us be just a very, very small part of your journey. Thank you for sharing your voice and your wisdom with the audience that is listening. I really do hope that they stay on to the very, very, very end, because you can hear so much sincerity in your voices that you want each other to succeed, and you want us all to succeed. So thank you all for stopping by Peak Train Like a Girl. We are so glad that you are here. The simplest thing you can do to help our platform grow is to make sure you are sharing with a female athlete or coach you love. Until next time. Girls, that was amazing.
I love you both.
That was, I mean, right?
I have chills.
Yeah, that was, Carson, that was such a great, last question. And you could feel that those words are what you were saying this whole time, but to actually be able to pause and reflect on that you want what's best for each other, but you also want what's best for everybody else that's out there. It's so genuine, and it's so kind, and you're a remarkable human. So
yeah, that really perfectly encapsulates Peak. That should be your new little clip. It was what you two said. But yeah, I was really thinking about that all day. I have my experience as a twin, but I also, to add to the mix, I have these two twin nieces, and they're girls. And I was so excited that we had more twins in the family, but I just kept worrying to both be girls. I just felt they're going to be so doomed, because girls are already comparing themselves. And so to have you two all grown up and admit that yes, it happens, but we would not change it. We love each other. I feel so much relief, and I hope that all the listeners just feel that overwhelming sense of we can all, like Annemarie said, we can all be at the top. We can all win. So you guys are amazing. And that was really I just needed to hear that so much.
agreed. Girls, have an awesome, awesome training season. We'd actually love to stay connected with you. We'd love to hear about your college journey. So if it makes sense, maybe even if you're home over winter break, we would love to catch up with you again.
For sure. We'd love to. I know the next 6 or 8, even a few months, it's going to be really different. It's going to be a change for sure. So I know we'd love to come back and talk to you about that journey and adjustment for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you all so very, very much.